They called you arrogant once, didn't they? Maybe cold, maybe fake, and you felt that twist in your chest. That rush to say something, to explain, to defend, to prove you're not who they think you are. But the more you spoke, the less they listened. And somehow, the more guilty you looked. Because here's the truth no one ever told you. Explaining is not clarity. Explaining is submission. You thought defending yourself would save your reputation, but it only confirmed their version of you. And in that moment, you didn't just lose their respect, you lost the frame, and whoever loses the frame loses the room. This isn't about ego, it's about control. And if you're tired of playing defense, if you're done being misread, misjudged, and quietly humiliated in public silence, then listen closely, because power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being unreadable, and your silence, if you know how to hold it, can become the loudest answer of all. You've probably been there, a moment where someone says something that just doesn't sit right. They twist your words, call your character into question. Suddenly, your heart's racing, you're reaching for words. You think, if I just explain myself, they'll understand, they'll see the truth, but that's the trap. The urge to be understood is deeply human. It feels noble, honest, like you're standing up for yourself, but it's not strength, it's panic. And panic never wins. Here's what the strategist would tell you. The more you try to explain yourself, the more power you hand over, because explanation, no matter how logical, submits to someone else's frame, their lens, their story. You're playing the game they designed, and you're playing it with their rules. They make the accusation. You try to fix it. They say you're manipulative. You say, I'm just honest. They say you're arrogant. You say, I was misunderstood. Each reply is a confession you've entered their court, and once you're in, you've already accepted they're the judge. You might think you're being rational, that logic and clarity will clear your name, but that only works in science. Not in social dynamics, not in perception, because the moment you start explaining, you shift the focus off the accuser and onto yourself. And no matter how right you are, now you're the one under scrutiny. Why? Because explaining isn't about facts. It's about power. And when someone sees you scramble for words, they don't see someone misunderstood. They see someone shaken. They see someone chasing approval. And that smell, that desperation to be understood, it invites attack. You might not see it, but people can feel it, even the silent ones, especially them. The strategist never explains, not because he's perfect, but because he knows that explanations don't elevate you, they expose you. Every sentence you offer gives them more material to spin, to twist, to dissect, and here's the cruel irony. The more you say, the less they hear, because they're not listening for truth, they're listening for cracks. And your words give them an X-ray of your insecurity. Let me make this clear. You don't need to win the conversation. You need to control the stage. That's what frame is. And once you lose it, facts won't save you. That's why the smartest move is the hardest one. Say nothing, or say less, not with sarcasm, not with bitterness, but with calm, stillness, grounded presence. Because when you stop chasing clarity, you stop playing their game. And when you stop playing, you become the only one left standing, not because you won the argument, but because you never agreed to have one. You've heard people say, control the narrative, but most don't understand what that really means. They think it's about speaking louder, being more convincing, flooding the room with evidence until the truth becomes obvious. But in reality, control doesn't come from volume, it comes from frame. Frame isn't just the story. It's the invisible lens through which every word is interpreted. Whoever controls the frame, controls perception, and perception, not truth, wins the game. Think of a courtroom. Two people speak. But the one who frames the situation as calm, clear, and unfazed, that's who the jury trusts. Even if they say less, even if their story is incomplete. Why? Because their energy holds authority, and authority is what people follow. The same thing happens in real life, at work, in relationships, on social media. The one who reacts emotionally, loses frame. The one who holds posture, even under fire, owns the field. Let's break it down. If someone accuses you, and you reply quickly, emotionally, with urgency, you've just confirmed their power to provoke. You've told the world, this person's words can control me. But when you pause, when you breathe, when your response is measured or even non-existent, you've just told a different story. Without saying it, you've said, I decide what matters, not them. That shift, that's frame control. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about mastering the setting in which conflict plays out. And once you understand that, you stop trying to be right. You start focusing on being unfazed. Because being right never mattered. People don't follow the right answer. They follow the one who speaks like they already know. The one who looks like they've been here before. The one whose tone says, and nothing about this threatens me. That's the secret behind leaders, icons, and cold operators. They don't argue, they anchor, they hold the emotional tempo of the room. And everyone else slowly sinks to their beat. Let's say you're in a meeting, you offer a bold idea. Someone challenges it with a sly smile. I don't know if that's realistic. And now, you have a choice. You can rush to explain, to prove you've thought it through, to fight for your credibility, or you can hold frame. You lean back, look up, stay still, and calmly say, what's your alternative? And no edge, no tension, just presence. Now they have to fill the space. They have to explain, and the entire room feels the shift, because you didn't defend your frame, you reinforced it. By letting it breathe, the strategist knows this. Power doesn't move fast, it moves deliberately, and every slow breath, every held silence, every pause before a word is a signal that says, I'm not reacting to you. You're reacting to me. That's the moment you flip the field, from chasing to commanding, from reacting to radiating. And once you live there, the game bends around you, because people don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the calmest one in the fire. Silence isn't weakness, it's not surrender, and it's definitely not confusion. It's the sharpest weapon you'll ever carry if you know how to hold it. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it. They think if they don't speak, they'll lose, that people will assume they're guilty, that they'll look passive. But the truth is colder than that. The one who breaks the silence first often loses control of the frame. Let's say you're in a heated moment. Someone calls you out. It's direct, it's public, and everyone turns to see what you'll do. You feel that rush, the instinct to jump in, to defend your name, to clear the air. But if you do, you've already lost, because silence, when held with confidence, turns the pressure around. It magnifies it, but not on you, on them. The room begins to notice. The tension starts to rise. Why didn't you respond? Do you know something they don't? Are you above this? Did they just embarrass themselves? The accuser starts fidgeting. They look around for backup. They try to explain their jab. Suddenly, they're the ones on trial, and all you did was say nothing. You don't need a smirk. You don't need a clever comeback. You just need stillness, still eyes, relaxed body, steady breath. That stillness becomes a mirror, and when someone throws aggression into a mirror, it comes back louder, sharper, and it hits them first. This is what the strategist understands. Silence isn't the absence of response, it's the presence of control. You're not ignoring them, you're studying, you're measuring, you're letting them reveal everything, while you reveal nothing. And that imbalance, it creates psychological gravity. They lean in, they guess, they overthink, they overtalk. And the more they do, the more they unravel, because when you don't react, people are forced to talk to themselves. They replay their words, doubt their delivery, wonder how they looked, and suddenly, the spotlight isn't on you. It's on their insecurity. That's the power of silent presence. It's not defensive, it's declarative. It says, I don't need to explain, because nothing about that touched me. And when people sense that their attack landed with zero emotional effect, they don't feel victorious, they feel exposed, because your silence didn't give them clarity, it gave them a reflection, and most people can't handle what they see, so hold it, hold the pause. Let it stretch, because silence, in the hands of the calm, isn't awkward, it's devastating. It doesn't just make you look untouchable. It makes them wonder if they ever understood you at all. When you choose silence, you're not withdrawing. You're setting the stage, because silence isn't empty, it's echo, and what echoes back isn't your voice. It's theirs. Most people can't sit in silence. It makes them uncomfortable. Their mind fills the gap, and if you say nothing, they start talking and talking and talking until the words they meant to throw at you circle back around and stick to them. This is the echo effect. Let them speak long enough, and their confidence cracks, their message splinters, and the crowd, whether in a room or online, starts to notice the tremble in their tone, because no one can hold righteous fury for too long without tipping into instability. Let's take a simple example. You walk into a room. Someone takes a passive-aggressive shot at you. It's meant to sting, to provoke. Everyone looks to you for a reaction. But instead, you offer none, not even a shift in posture. You just stand there, still, present, unmoved. At first, the room holds its breath. They wait for the return fire. But when nothing comes, they turn their attention back to the accuser. Now the spotlight flips. Now people start to question, why did he say that? Was that necessary? Was that a bit too personal? And just like that, without saying a word, you've let their attack collapse under its own weight. People forget this. Communication isn't just about what's said. It's about where attention goes, and when you remain still. The attacker owns all the attention, every eye, every breath, every awkward pause, and the longer you hold that silence, the more distorted they become. They over-explain, they repeat themselves, they try to sound justified. But the crowd isn't listening to their words, they're watching their unraveling, because here's the truth. When someone feels unacknowledged, they become unpredictable. When their blow doesn't land, they panic, they try harder. They reach for more extreme angles, and every reach makes them look more emotional, while you stay anchored. The strategist doesn't just stay calm, he creates imbalance. He lets others show too much, say too much, feel too much. Because once they overplay their hand, they're no longer the attacker, they're the one who lost control. And the silence, it wasn't just restraint. It was a mirror, one that forced them to face their own image and realize they were never in control. Not even of themselves. So next time someone tries to bait you, don't take it. Let them walk into the silence. Let them fill it, let them echo, and when they do, just watch. Watch the power shift without a sound, because you didn't win by fighting. You won by never showing up to the battle, and yet somehow, they still lost. There's a moment after the silence. A shift, a turn, not just holding your ground, but flipping the game. Most people stop at silence. They think that not reacting is the victory, but the strategist knows better. There's a deeper move. More subtle, more surgical. You don't just let the accusation die, you let it reverse. You let it eat its own tail. Someone calls you manipulative. The average person says, "No, I'm not." They try to explain their intentions. They speak from sincerity. But they've already lost. You, on the other hand, smile calm, detached, and say, "That's what people say when they can't get their way." Now everything shifts. Because you didn't defend, you reframed. You didn't absorb the hit, you made it reflect. Suddenly, the accuser looks bitter, over-emotional, insecure. What was meant to be an attack now looks like a tantrum. Let's be clear. This isn't sarcasm, this isn't petty. It's poised, it's precise. Someone says you're arrogant. You say, "A confidence makes people uncomfortable." And let the words hang. They say you're fake. You shrug. Everyone says that when you stop giving them what they want, each one a blade they handed you, turned gently back in their direction. This is the reversal, the cold art of making someone regret aiming at you, not because you retaliated, but because you exposed the emotion behind their attack. See, accusations are rarely about truth. They're projections, reactions, signals of someone else's unresolved feelings, and if you handle them with care, you can make that emotional charge visible to everyone. Now the attacker doesn't just look wrong. They look unstable, and you look immune. There's a secret here. People respect those who seem untouchable. Not because they believe everything about them is perfect, but because they sense they're unshakable. They move with a kind of emotional judo, letting others throw their weight, then using that very weight against them. The strategist never blocks. He redirects, because when someone expects you to defend, and instead you disarm them with quiet certainty, it shatters their rhythm. And that rhythm collapse is where your advantage lies. But you can't fake this. It has to be clean, grounded. No need to sting, no need to mock. Just hold your ground, reframe the attack, and hand it back with gentleness so devastating that they walk away wondering if they just embarrassed themselves. That's the reversal, not by force, but by finesse. Not by resistance, but by redirection. And in that moment, you don't just avoid the wound. You hand them the mirror and let them wound themselves. In the digital arena, the attacks come faster, quicker, sharper. A comment, a post, a message dripping with accusation, waiting for your reaction, and most people give it. They post long responses, try to clarify, to explain, to defend their name, but all that does is feed the fire, because here, online, the rules are colder. No one remembers the details, they remember the energy, and when you respond from a place of defense, you look shaken. You look guilty, even if you're not. So what does the strategist do? He doesn't respond, he distorts, he reframes. Someone says, "You're toxic." You don't write a thread defending yourself, you post. People call you dangerous when they can't control you. Now you flipped it, you didn't even mention them, you spoke to the crowd. And the energy turns, they look petty. You look untouchable, or they say, "You're fake." You say, authenticity triggers people who wear masks. And you leave it there. What's happening here isn't just clever language, it's frame control. You're not engaging in the original accusation. You're elevating above it, turning it into a statement of strength. Because in this world, you don't win by convincing people. You win by creating a presence so composed, so unaffected, that people start questioning the ones attacking you. They wonder why you're so calm, why you haven't responded with rage, and that wonder, that pause, that's where your power builds. But let's go deeper. Sometimes the best move isn't to speak at all. Sometimes you let the accusation hang. And then vanish, not blocking, not arguing, just pure absence. You let your silence speak for itself. And what it says is simple. You are not even close to my level. Most attackers survive off attention, even negative attention. When you cut that off, they flail, they overpost, they scream louder, and all of it makes them look weaker. Now, they're not just attacking, they're performing, and the audience begins to see the cracks. This is the elite play. The moment when your presence, even when silent, carries more force than any argument ever could. You don't need to prove innocence, you need to project inevitability, that no matter what they say, you will remain unmoved, unbothered, undeniable. And when you do speak, if you speak, it should never feel like a response, it should feel like a choice. A calculated ripple in the still water, not a splash. That's the digital dominance. You don't fight online, you reshape perception, subtly, elegantly, and with every word you don't say, you rise. Most people spend their lives trying to be good, to be liked, to be understood. They think if they're careful enough, polite enough, clear enough, they'll avoid judgment. But the strategist knows better. Being liked is soft power, being respected is sharp, and between the two, respect lasts longer. Let's destroy the illusion. You don't need a clean reputation, you need a strong one. Because a clean reputation is fragile, it breaks the moment someone questions it. But a strong reputation, it's weathered, it's lived, it carries weight, not because people love you, but because they know better than to move against you lightly. Think about it. Who do people fear? Not the man who's always nice, not the one always explaining. They fear the one they can't read, the one who doesn't react, who doesn't defend, who moves like a storm no one sees coming. That's who they respect. That's who they don't test. And when accusations come, when people throw shade, that man doesn't panic. He doesn't correct the record, he lets the silence swallow it whole, because silence, true silence, is not passive, it's positional. It's the mark of someone who doesn't explain himself because he's already explained everything with how he moves. Every gesture, every pause, every lack of response says, I don't explain myself, I define myself. And when others try to tear him down, they fail not because he resists, but because they look small doing it. You've seen it before. Someone tries to embarrass a leader in front of others. They get emotional, make it personal. And the leader just watches, maybe nods, maybe doesn't move at all, and suddenly the crowd starts shifting. Not because they understand everything, but because they feel the power imbalance. The one who speaks too much always looks weaker next to the one who holds the room in silence. That's the paradox. The more you explain, the more it looks like you need to. The less you react, the more they assume you have no reason to, and that assumption that you're too secure, too composed, too confident to care, that becomes your armor, and better than armor, it becomes your myth. Because people start to imagine what you're capable of, what you could say, what you might do, but don't, that unknown. That mystery, it becomes more powerful than anything you could ever prove. So stop chasing clarity, start radiating certainty. Let people misunderstand you, let them guess, let them fill in the blanks. Because the moment they realize they can't predict your moves, they stop trying to challenge them. And that's when you win, not by being good, but by being undeniable. It doesn't start with a speech, it starts with restraint. Not saying the first thing that comes to mind, not reacting because someone expects you to. That's the beginning of real control. The strategist doesn't flinch, he doesn't argue, he doesn't try to look strong because strength is a reaction. What he builds instead is presence. Presence isn't noise, it's weight. It's what you feel when someone walks into a room and says nothing, but everyone turns anyway. That kind of presence is crafted, not gifted. You build it with choices. By choosing when to speak, by choosing when to stay still, by deciding which battles are worth your breath, and which ones are better left to collapse on their own. You're not here to win arguments, you're here to shift gravity. And gravity doesn't announce itself, it just pulls everything toward it. Here's how you start. When someone throws a cheap insult, you don't reply. Not because you're weak, because the insult isn't worth your voice. You let the silence speak instead. You let your body language say, that wasn't even significant enough to notice. That pause, that choice to not engage, it speaks volumes. Then, when someone presses again, you don't snap, you don't prove, you say something simple, final. Maybe just a noted, or, if that's how you see it, and then you end it. You don't reopen the debate, you don't look back. What that tells people is this: your attention is precious, it's not handed out for free. And if someone wants to pull you into drama, they'll find themselves talking to air. Eventually, people learn. They learn you're not someone to provoke for fun. They learn your silence isn't emptiness, it's elevation. But presence isn't just about silence, it's also about stillness. How you hold your face, how you breathe. The way your eyes don't dart, the way you never lean forward to prove something. Stillness makes people uneasy. Because most are full of tiny movements, nervous reactions, tells, and when you don't have them, they don't know what to do with you. You become unreadable, and what people can't read, they can't control. That's where your power multiplies. Not because you shouted louder, but because you became the question they couldn't answer, and questions are more powerful than declarations, especially when you don't rush to fill them. You let others sit in the mystery. You let them doubt their own certainty, because that doubt, it's the beginning of your dominance. Not through force, but through atmosphere, through the space you hold without needing to defend it. That's presence, and presence makes explanation unnecessary. This is the final turn, the moment when silence becomes more than a tool, more than a tactic. It becomes who you are. The strategist doesn't just use silence, he lives in it, not because he's hiding, but because he's moved beyond the need to prove. Think about the rare few, the ones you respect without needing to know every detail. The ones who never post rants, never reply to drama, never chase after explanations, and yet their names carry weight. Why? Because mystery invites belief, and belief, when unchallenged, becomes myth. When you no longer defend yourself, you start to rise without effort, not because the world suddenly agrees with you, but because they no longer think they can reach you. You become the one they study, the one they speak about in whispers, not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. And that's the paradox. The more still you are, the more movement you create, the more silent you become, the louder your presence feels. At this level, you're not just avoiding conflict. You're reframing what power even looks like. It's no longer about who can speak the fastest, argue the hardest, or prove the most. It's about who can shape the energy of a room without saying a word. That kind of control, it's not about dominance, it's about definition. You define your space, you define your value, you define your silence. And in doing so, you remove yourself from the trial. You don't live in the court of public opinion. You don't need applause to act. You don't need permission to move. You are not reactive. You are resolved. So here's where it ends. From now on, you don't fight for your name. You let your presence write it. You don't chase clarity. You radiate certainty, and every time someone tries to pull you into a storm, you don't step inside. You stand still, you watch, and eventually they stop trying to move you, because they realize what you knew all along. The most powerful man is not the one who fights the world, it's the one the world can't move.